In the month of March, we will be focusing on the self-love series. This series focuses on women sharing their journey to self-love and activities they do to continue to cultivate and grow in their journey. In this episode, we will be talking with Mahogany of Mahogany Speaks podcast about the journey and different phases of life from a young Mahogany to now, learning about herself through both marriage and divorce, and now focusing on the healed version of herself and growth. This episode may be for you if you are learning how to do the self-work to self-love. Welcome to Happy Hour Conversations with Tamekia, where we are everything her, helping to elevate, redefine our sister friend tribe, and bringing women voices and stories to the mic. If you are new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am your host, Tamekia R. Moon, and be sure to stay connected with me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and also Spotify at Happy Hour Conversations with Tamekia. Make sure that you hit that notification button so you can be notified when we drop videos. All right, so today's episode, we are doing a series called Self-Love, and we are going to be talking to Mahogany Speaks as she shares her road to self-love. She is an amazing mom. She is a world traveler. She is a podcast host of Mahogany Speaks, and she is my line sister. Welcome, Mahogany. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. Listen, Tamekia, I'm so honored to be here. I honor everything that you are doing with Happy Hour Conversations. You have a voice that we need to hear. Keep doing your thing. Be encouraged. And I just encourage your listeners to continue to share the great work that you are doing. You are impacting the community. So thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for saying yes. We are doing this series called Self Love, right? And it's to bring collective women, just different groups of women together to share their stories, talk about their journey to self love, with the hopes to pour into each other, right? And to celebrate the magic that happens when we get to that self love journey and accepting who we are. And so my hopes is that this gives women permission to just stand in their story, give them the affirmations that they need, and just accept who they are as a whole, the totality of who we are, right? And so let's just jump right on into. So I put out a call for just different groups of women to come onto the podcast and talk about self-love, right? And you said yes to the call of either being married or divorced, and you fit both of those categories. So let's jump right in. And one thing, tell me what self-love means to you.
Yeah. So I think self love means different things to different people. And also, depending on the season you are in your life, it could mean different things to you. So, self love for me today is very different than it was 5 years ago. Self love for me today is really standing in my truth as I am today. Whereas self love several years ago was up probably to last year was uncovering trauma, uncovering roots to the trauma, healing, understanding why I'm triggered. I said in 2025 that for me, I'm going to throw those terms in the trash because I have done the work to evolve. I'm not perfect by any means, but now I'm at a place of, okay, this is who I am. Now, how do I elevate myself with where I am? And some of the ways that I do that, I still go to therapy. There's nothing like speaking to someone who is objective to kind of guide you through your process when you are going through things or having a difficult time understanding some things. So therapy still is very germane to me in my life. Traveling. I still love to travel, and I feel that traveling is a way for me to go in a space where nobody knows who I am. I could be authentically who I am and be meet different people, have different conversations without fear or worry of judgment. And if they judge me, I don't care because I'm never going to see them again. So that in itself for me is as self care because I'm able to talk to different people and meet new people and see new faces. Self love is also going to the gym. I'm in the gym all the time, just taking care of myself. At this big age, I'll be 48 this year. I have to take care of myself, and my health has been a priority for me starting probably the end of 2024. Just really watching what I put into this temple. So diet, and it's not even a diet, it's just a way of life now where I'm really um, mindful of what I'm eating, where I'm getting my food from, and what I'm putting in my body. In addition to exercising, keeping that heart healthy and the blood pumping, all of those things. So I consider all of these tools as part of my self care journey today.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mhm.
So tell us your story from the young Mahogany, right, into Mahogany's first marriage, into Mahogany's second marriage, into your divorce. Um, Tell us the stages where Mahogany was learning to love herself to where Mahogany got to, you know what? No, I choose me. Because I believe there's different stages. You kind of said it early on, like there's different stages, but there is this foundational of a stage where you're like, you know what? Bump everything, bump everybody. I choose me. I accept me where I am today. So walk us through
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. So I was born and raised in the church. My parents were married 42 years before my mother passed away. So grew up in a two-parent household. I have a brother. But one of the things that I will say about my childhood was that, and I understand more now, understand by and by, but I grew up in a household where I felt like my father was there but wasn't present. And I also grew up in a household where they didn't believe in divorce. And so because of that, and I'm not sure how many households experience this, there weren't a lot of happy moments. There was a lot of tolerating and so on and so forth. But grew up in the church. At the age of 15, I took on a job at White Castles. And I specifically asked to work on Sundays because at that point I was tired of church because I felt that, and I think a lot of young people go through this, and I don't want to put a dark shadow over or cast a dark shadow over the black church, but I felt like there was a lot of hypocrisy in the black church, and I didn't want to really have anything to do with it anymore because of the oppression that I felt. So I left the church at 15, started working, graduated from high school, was a non-traditional student, so on and so forth. Got married at 21, and I also had my son shortly after we got married. And it was a really great time in my life, mainly because I was able to leave my childhood home and really grow up and do things on my own. And there was a level of freedom that I didn't feel that I had prior. But with that, there was a lot of immaturity. There was a lot of things I didn't know. There was a lack of support. And you go through, marriage is marriage, and you go through difficult times and tough times. But when you don't have the support or the tools to know how to handle those difficult times, it makes it even worse. It amplifies the challenges even more so. So, my first husband and I, we're great friends today. We were married for 12 years, and we had a son. He's now 26. Hard to believe I have a 26-year-old. And so we ultimately divorced. There were challenges. There were a lot of things that happened in our marriage, turmoil. We were both growing, young, so on and so forth, just trying to figure it out on our own. Fast forward about 3 years later, I met my most recent husband. Never thought I'd be saying my most recent husband. Met my most recent husband. I was a little bit older, and we got married. And the marriage was great. It was okay, but I do think that I have been. It's been burnt into my soul that marriage is what you are supposed to do versus
Mm.
really taking the time to decide if this is something that I want to do. Right. And so I think that at this age, I was around 35. I just felt like this was what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be married. I am a wife. And because my relationships have been long and they have both ended up in marriage, I've never dated. And so I've never experienced the freedom of being a single person. That's not what ended our marriage, but certainly there were things within our marriage that I realized this is not right. It's not right. So we ultimately divorced. And one of the things I strive to do is never to degrade my exes, because they're both great men. They're both amazing fathers. And for that, I honor them. It just didn't work out. And I will leave it at that. And so
Okay.
yep. Hmm.
So just really quick, do you feel like when you said that you felt like you were supposed to be married, was that
Hmm.
because you were raised in a two-parent household and that's what your environment was growing up?
Yes. Yes, that and the church.
Okay.
That's what you're supposed to do, right? You're not supposed to be out here living free, doing whatever you want. There needs to be restraints and framework, which I appreciate and honor. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But when that is done absent of experience and mental growth, it it begins to, you feel like you're in this cocoon
Mm-hmm.
and you're suffocating.
I
And
get that.
so that's kind of what happened with me. You know, I'm not as embarrassed anymore, but there was a time in my life where I was embarrassed to say I've been married twice and divorced twice. I mean, that's like a failure. I felt like a failure. But when you look at the span of my relationships and me only having two relationships and both ending up in marriage and ultimately both ending up in divorce, I haven't been out here living carelessly. I've been very intentional with my mates and selecting my mates and um, being committed to those mates. And I'm at a place now where I don't know if marriage is for me moving forward. My mindset is totally different. Um, and while I am not dating, when I do get to the place where I'm able to date, I don't know if I'll be dating for marriage anymore. I think I'll be looking more so for companionship. And that in itself is freedom. That mind shift has freed me versus out here looking for a husband. It's not of interest to me anymore.
I absolutely love that. The mind shift and being free from the bondage of what society says you're supposed to do and what life is supposed to look like for you when you have stepped into a space and said, you know what? Hey, no, I can create what my own life is supposed to be and own it and be free from that bondage. I love that for you. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's great.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes. So tell us about at what point did you say, you know what? No, I'm going to choose me. And so this is a two-part question.
Mhm.
Do you feel like you're just entering that self-love stage to where, as we said before, there's different stages, but wholeheartedly like just you are now just accepting you and being free from certain things? Do you feel like you're just entering that stage, or do you feel like you've been on this journey for a while and you are continuously cultivating the self-love for Mahogany?
Okay, so two different questions, very different questions. So I would say when I first decided to choose me, what pushed me in that direction, to be quite honest with you, was my first trip to Tanzania. And the reason why that was because I had spent so much time being the trying to be the perfect wife and the perfect mother, the perfect bonus mother, the perfect family member, the perfect employee, perfect everything. And without getting too far into the weeds, there was a lot of lack of support. And so it was all on my shoulders. You know, as a Black woman, we carry the burden of a lot and we remain silent. We suffer in silence a lot. Going to Tanzania, it allowed me to just think about me. I had a selfish moment when I was in Tanzania, like, wow, this is amazing. And it kind of made me wake up and appreciate who I am, who I was at the time, but then to also recognize there's much more to me than this. So
That's
that
beautiful.
that was my awakening. As far as my self-care journey, it was 2025. I don't believe in resolutions, but in 2025 at the beginning of the year I said I am no longer going to be a victim to my own shame. Going through the healing journey and exposing trauma, there's a woe is me moment because you're recognizing it, you feel the pain. And anyone who's starting out on this journey, I encourage you to go through it. But what I started to do was, because now I realized what my triggers were rooted from, I started using it as an excuse. So when I would be in exchanges with my ex-husband, I would point to, that's triggering me. And it's triggering me because, which is great, you're able to identify, I was rejected as a child. I feel like you're rejecting me now, and this is why I'm triggered. You begin to thread it together. But at some point, it's great to acknowledge it and to understand it. You have to evolve from it. And so in 2025, I'm really trying to evolve from talking about my triggers and talking about my trauma and my healing, because at what point am I healed? I'm not saying that I will ever be completely healed, but at what point do I start speaking life into myself and encouraging myself, and not be woe is me from all this trauma and this hard life, which really, I had a blessed life, but all these hard moments in my life and just wallow in that, because I did that for a few years and I needed to do that. But 2025, it's all about, I've done the self-reflecting. Who am I today, and how can I capitalize and evolve from where I am today moving forward?
Yes, the growth moment. I love it. Yes.
Yeah.
Taking it all in and now saying, okay, I have pulled back the layers, right? Of the different stages. And now this is what I'm about to do going forward.
Mhm.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that for you. That is such a huge mind shift and a growth moment to grow from all the different experiences to who you are today as Mahogany. I love that for you.
Yeah. Thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you.
See, and this is what I'm talking about. Just that magical moment of just the self-love journey and the road to it, right? And in each stage you do get to celebrate. But when you get to the stages such as this,
Hmm.
I don't know no other word but to say magical, because it is just a moment of just like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I've gotten to here. Like I have risen. I have really,
Yes.
really gotten to this space. And it
Yeah.
is such an honor.
Yeah. And I would say too, I would encourage your listeners to go through the muck, to go through the hurt. When you relive those moments, those struggle moments in your life, those challenging moments in your life, go through it, feel the pain, understand where it comes from, reflect on it, and then move on.
Yes.
Move on.
Yes.
At
Do the
some
work.
point, you have to move on, but do the work. It's going to hurt. It's going to be painful, but trust me, in the end, when you're able to move on, I have such a clear conscience. I've done my apologies. I have accepted my responsibilities, and I have such a clear conscience that I am able to move forward in peace within myself and within my life.
And you can't put a price on that. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we kind of talked through some things, and I think you answered this, but I want you to kind of expound a little bit more. What are some things that make you happy?
I mean, number one, my children. I have a set of twins and I have a 26-year-old as well. They make me so happy. And they also tap down on that dance on that last nerve right there, that they tap dance on it. But nevertheless, they make me so happy. But when it comes to myself, to be honest, what makes me the most happy is travel. There's such a freeing feeling with traveling. I can't explain it. It's always hard to leave, but once I get there, it's just to be able to learn about different cultures. First of all, we have been raised in America. We've always been taught we were superior. There's um there's something about Americans who that makes us feel that we're better than other nations. I don't it's ingrained in each of us, and it's not a race thing. It is an American thing. And sometimes when we take those thoughts to other countries, it's offensive. And I remember, and I'm getting off topic, but one time when I was in South Africa, I had a driver, and I asked him, I said, "What do you think when you see me?" He said, "I think that you're better than me, but you're not." And that is the spirit and the thought of a lot of other nations, how they feel towards us. And so, what I've learned, what has helped me in this journey is being able to humble myself when I go into other spaces and places and allowing myself to assimilate to them um, versus wanting them to adapt to me. And that in itself has been healing for me because stepping down and being humble, it's a very special place to be in because when you're able to be humble, you learn so much. You learn a lot about yourself and you're more respectful of others. And so that has really, travel has really opened up my eyes when it comes to self love. Did
That
I
sounds
answer
like
your
a rich.
question?
You did, and that sounds
Okay.
like a rich experience as well. Going to different countries and learning the culture, right? And just learning about them and just stepping aside and to be honest, and I know we getting off topic, but I think when you learn from other people, even when they come over here, we look at them like, well, why are they doing that? Oh my gosh, that's not right. And it's like, honestly, when we really look at stuff, I think I think we live in a toxic society. I think we're toxic over here
Yeah.
compared to other countries, right? And
And
I
we're,
know we getting off topics, but
yeah,
I think your answer, I think, is it was rich within itself, and it is a learning and healing moment because you do get that deep understanding and that connection to really look at yourself and humble yourself and really appreciate the experience. Like that's what life is about, the experience and
yeah.
learning and growing, right? And so, but yes, you did answer the question.
And if I
Thank
could
you.
just add one more thing too, I look at it, it's aligned because when I was in these marriages, I was living in a bubble. I think that sometimes in America, we live in a bubble. In both situations, when I freed myself from the bubble, I was able to grow and learn and appreciate in both situations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So
Mhm.
you earlier you said a couple things that you do and tools that you have done to the self-love journey, right? For you. And that was therapy, travel, and you go to the gym. Is there anything else that you would add of tools that you use or resources?
Yeah. So I mentioned diet. And so I'm learning how to try to use what I have, meaning juicing. I juice a lot with fresh fruits and veggies. I juice a lot and I have my children juice. To be honest, it's a small thing, but that has helped because I feel accomplished when I'm juicing my own drinks. And I feel accomplished when I see my children drinking their vegetables. Mentally, it does something, but internally, it also does something. So that's been helpful as well. Um, I don't know if I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but I'm back in school as if I have
Okay.
time to do anything else. So before my mother in 2016, my mother went into hospice. I became her full-time caretaker, so I had to drop out. And I was working on my doctorate. Then a year later, had the twins. A few years later, divorce. So I never finished my doctorate. And 2025, I said, I'm going back to school and I'm going to finish what I started because my mother was so proud of me that I was accepted into the program and I just was not able to finish. And so, while a lot of my research is now outdated, I don't have to start from scratch. And so, my goal is to complete that. And that has done something to me, to my mental and self care as well, because I feel like I'm going to accomplish this goal that I put on the back burner that I felt that I failed at because it was almost as if I quit, right? Versus delay, I was just like, I quit, I failed, but it was just a delay. And now I'm back on the road to complete my doctorate. And so I'm really excited about that. That has really boosted my spirits as well.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Going back and accomplishing what you started. You know what? Congratulations. I
Thank you.
am really proud of you for doing that.
Thank you.
Oh my
Thank
gosh,
you.
that is amazing to hear.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Is there before we close, I want you to give two different messages to two different groups.
Okay.
What would you tell the young ladies that are younger than us, that are in their 20s, that's going to be on this journey, and they may even be married?
Hmm.
That's one question. What would you tell the younger ladies that are in their 20s about self-love and what they should or could be doing?
So I would definitely say, I remember in my 20s, I was on this grind because I was married, because I had a child, because I was working full time. I would say to the younger ones in their 20s to definitely take time for themselves, figure out what brings them joy. I do feel like in my first marriage, because I wasn't focused on what brings me joy, it deteriorated our marriage because so much of it was centered around the marriage and being a mother. Same with the second marriage. You have to find what makes you tick. You have to figure out what brings you joy. You have to figure out what makes you smile and happy. For me, it was dancing, and I still haven't found a partner to dance with. I'm looking for companionship so I can go dancing with somebody. But for me, it was dancing, and it was something that was lacking in both of my marriages. Something as small as that. Figure out what makes you happy. Get a hobby, and don't defer your dreams if you don't have to. If you defer your dreams, that's okay, but make a note and go back to it. Don't just ignore it because it's going to burn in you, and you don't want to become bitter and start blaming others for why you didn't accomplish your goals. So definitely carve out moments and times for yourself and create those goals and do your best to achieve them.
Now, let's speak to what message would you give women that have been married and are divorced or about to be divorced? They find themselves in this space to where they want to get divorced. What would you say to them?
I would say to them, what worked for me, and it's cliche because we say it all the time, but therapy is so important. I can't tell you where I would be without therapy. I was speaking to a friend of mine this morning, um, and he has gone through divorce. He's in his 40s and he's trying to date, right? And I was explaining to him that when women go through divorce or even the separation process, we have an emotional experience. Our emotions are all over the place. And I shared with him, one day I want to date, one day I don't. It's our emotions are never really in sync until you have a watershed moment like I did and said, okay, I'm good. 2025 is my year. I would say therapy. Even if you don't think that you did anything wrong or even if you don't think you were the cause of the divorce, you need to talk through it with somebody. Therapy matters and it helped me tremendously, and I was able to uncover some things that I forgot about that probably contributed to the demise of my marriage. That was on me. Because when you go into the
Mm.
marriage or go into the divorce, it's all about what the other person did. But when you reflect back and look over your life and you start to uncover some things and expose some things, you're like, part of this was me. I did this.
Oh, oh,
And
taking ownership.
yeah, taking ownership. And because of that, I may never hear an apology, but I apologize and I freed myself from that guilt. So definitely seek therapy and acknowledge your part in all things, because until you acknowledge your part, that cycle will continue and continue, because if you don't acknowledge it and you don't know, things will continue to happen and you don't know why they're happening. You have to expose it and deal with it so that you recognize it so that it doesn't continue to happen.
That's deep. That is really deep. And I absolutely love the part of taking ownership versus playing victim.
Mhm.
I love that. And it's powerful when you can take ownership of your own behaviors and do the reflection. And like you said, you may not ever get an apology, but you can take ownership and even apologize to yourself for the things that you've done. And once you take ownership, you don't carry it on to the next and the next and the next. That's
Exactly.
powerful. I love
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Is there anything that I haven't asked that you want to say or share with the audience?
The one thing that I would say is personal to me, and I hope that it resonates with someone in your audience, is that life is meant to be shared. And I am not anti-marriage. I just don't know if it's for me. But what I am seeking is companionship, right? I want to share life with someone in the future. And I think it's a beautiful thing. Unification is a beautiful thing, however you get there. And so, for those of you out there looking for love, don't give up. For me, I haven't dated. I'm the wrong person to even be talking about this. I haven't dated. I'm shy. I'm awkward, and I have no game, no swag, no nothing. However, when the time comes, I'm open to it. And I think just be open to love and be open to the possibilities. And, at this age, we have baggage and we have a list of what we're not going to put up with and what we are going to put up with and our non negotiables. And I'm with all of that. But I also recognize that there's not going to be one perfect mate. So what are you willing to give up or sacrifice for happiness?
Mm, I love it. So you have a podcast,
Mhm.
Mahogany Speaks, and we getting ready to close. Tell everyone how to follow you, what platforms you are on, and we'll also make sure that it's in the description as well.
Yes, definitely. So, Mahogany Speaks is the name of my podcast. I started this podcast right at the beginning of my divorce or towards the end of the separation as a way to just really process what was happening to me. I hadn't even published an episode. I was just on the mic, just talking, just freeing myself. And it was so therapeutic, in addition to my therapist. But Mahogany Speaks is in our third season. We can be found on Spotify, and I will release clips on Mahogany Speaks on Facebook and Mahogany Speaks show on Instagram. So check me out.
And we will make sure that we will drop the description, both your platforms in the description of this podcast. I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for saying yes. Thank you for sharing your story. As I said earlier, I wanted to do this because, like, we have books, right, for certain things, and books for, just whatever, right? Self love books, self help books, and all of this stuff. However, I'm not sure if books can actually tell us how to get there.
Right, right. There's
you know, I,
suggestions.
they're suggestions, and I think they're helpful,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if they are the absolute tool for us to get to our next. However, what I do believe is sharing our stories as women from different backgrounds, different experiences, and being able to share the experience, the truth, our stories, and open the door for other women, right? Because I think when we do this, it allows the door to be open for other women to say, you know what? Hey, I can relate to that.
Yep.
Or I have that experience, or that looks or sounds familiar. And it will give them an opportunity to give themselves permission to share as well. And collectively together, I don't know, this might be a movement, but I think we need to start talking about that self love and cultivating at this big age, as you say, right? Because one thing I know for sure is we were all young at one point, and I can remember being young, but nobody really showing me a path or sharing their stories about loving themselves or choosing them.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make sure that we created a space for this. And so I just want to say thank you. Thank you for coming on and
It was
sharing.
an honor. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So we are getting ready to close. Again, I am Tamekia Armoon. If you are ever looking for me, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and again on Spotify at Happy Hour Conversations with Tamekia. I am honored, and we will talk to you all soon. Bye.
Bye.